At 1:10 on a gray Tuesday, Diana Brooks was climbing the narrow stairs of her Brooklyn apartment building with a bag of groceries in one hand and her keys in the other. The hall smelled like old paint, lemon cleaner, and somebody's frying onions. On the second floor, Mrs. Alvarez opened her door before Diana could even knock. Mrs. Alvarez was small, fast, and never seemed to slow down. Today she looked different. Her hair was pinned back too tight, and a bright yellow clipboard was pressed against her chest. It was so bright it almost hurt Diana's eyes. "Diana, I need a favor," Mrs. Alvarez said. Her voice was thin with worry. A big favor. Diana set her groceries down. What happened? Mrs. Alvarez stepped into the hall and closed the apartment door behind her. The city office in Bay Ridge needs these papers before the afternoon inspection. If they don't get them, the inspector can shut down the laundromat. Diana knew the laundromat. Everyone in the building did. Alvarez Wash and Fold sat on 3rd Avenue under a red awning, with dryers that hummed all day and a front window full of soap boxes and cheap hangers. It was busy from morning to night. People dropped off sheets, school uniforms, work shirts, baby blankets. Mrs. Alvarez and her nephew Louise kept the place going with hard hands and long hours. Mrs. Alvarez tapped the yellow clipboard. Fire safety papers. Extinguisher check. Exit signs. Alarm test. The city said one page was missing from the file. The office only takes them in person today. I would go myself, but Luis is alone at the shop, and the inspector is coming at 3. Diana looked at the clock on the hallway wall. 1:12. Bay Ridge office on 86th Street? She asked. Yes, please. I know it's a lot. Diana took the clipboard. The plastic cover was warm from Mrs. Alvarez's hands. The papers inside were neat and stapled, except for one loose corner that kept lifting in the hallway air. If I take the subway now, I can make it, Diana said. Mrs. Alvarez grabbed her wrist for one quick second. Please don't let that yellow folder get lost. I had to borrow my grandson's highlighter just to make it stand out. Diana gave a short laugh, but the laugh did not last. I'll bring it there myself. She left the building, cut past a cart selling bananas and coffee, and walked fast toward the 86th Street station. The sky was low and pale, and a small wind pushed paper cups along the sidewalk. Cars honked at a delivery truck, double parked by the curb. A bus sighed to a stop. Brooklyn felt busy and close, like everything was moving at once. At the station stairs, Diana tucked the clipboard under her arm and went down into the cool underground air. The platform was crowded. A man in a work vest checked his watch. 2 school kids argued over a phone. A woman with a stroller looked tired enough to sit on the floor. The train came in with a loud metal scream, and the doors opened. Diana stepped on and held the clipboard tighter. The car was packed. A man with a wet umbrella bumped her shoulder. Somebody smelled like strong coffee. A teen in headphones leaned against the pole and stared past her. Diana kept one hand on the yellow clipboard and one hand on the rail. The train started and stopped with hard little jerks, and every bump made her check the papers again. At first, she watched the station names flash by. 9th Street, 25th Street, 53rd Street. Then the train slowed again, and a voice crackled over the speaker. Diana could not hear every word. She heard Bay Ridge. She heard local stop. She heard the doors open. She looked up just in time to see the sign outside the train window, 77th Street. This was wrong. The doors were already open. People were stepping off. Diana moved with them before she could think. Maybe the office was only one stop farther. Maybe she had time. Her foot landed on the platform, and then the train gave a hard shudder as the doors started to close. That was when the yellow clipboard shifted under her arm. One loose page slipped out. It slid across the platform like it had a mind of its own, lifted by a cold gust from the tunnel, and shot toward a side stairwell. Diana swore under her breath and ran after it. The stairwell led straight into a corner diner. The diner was full of lunch people. A delivery man was finishing a sandwich. Two women in office clothes shared fries at the counter. An old man stirred his soup as if he had all day. A waitress with dark hair and a sharp pencil behind her ear called out names from a ticket pad. Diana pushed through the door so fast the bell over it rang twice. "Excuse me, did a loose paper come in here?" she asked. The waitress turned. "Yellow paper?" "Yes, fire papers. Very important." The waitress pointed with her pen. "I saw one by the booth near the window. A little kid almost sat on it." Diana moved fast between tables, saying sorry, sorry, sorry as she went. A man pulled his chair back to let her pass. A woman lifted her purse off the floor. Somewhere in the back, a pan hit a stove with a sharp clang. The smell of coffee, bacon, and onion rings was so strong it made Diana's stomach twist, even though she had no time to think about food. She reached the booth by the window and found the page under the seat, half under a sugar jar. She grabbed it. Then she saw two more pages on the floor near the register. The clipboard had opened when she ran. The train jolt must have shaken the papers loose. One page had flown into the diner. The others had slipped off near the stairs. Diana bent down and caught one under a chair leg. The last page was tucked under a tipped napkin basket, right beside a cup of ketchup. "Got it," the waitress said, coming up beside her. "You look like you're chasing a runaway dog." "Feels like it," Diana said. "Thank you." The waitress smiled and pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Back door is open to the platform. You can cut through." Diana nodded and hurried past the counter. But just as she reached the back door, the yellow clipboard slipped again. This time, the whole stack slid out of the cover and hit the floor with a flat slap. For 1 second, Diana just stared. Then she dropped to her knees. A cook in a white cap stepped over, moved a stool out of the way, and helped her gather the pages. Another man at the counter held the door open so no one would step on them. The papers felt warm and a little greasy from the diner floor, but they were all there. Diana counted them with fast fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Her breath came out in one hard rush. "Thank you," she said again. "Really, thank you." "Go," the cook said, "before that train leaves without you." Diana ran out the back door and onto the platform. The train was already there, doors open, people pushing in and out. She jumped inside just before the doors shut. The yellow clipboard was bent at the corner now, and one page had a tiny coffee stain on it, but the stack was still complete. She checked her watch. 1:41. Her stop was next, but then the line slowed for a signal. The train sat under the tunnel lights, still and hot, with people shifting their bags and tapping their feet. Diana hated every second of it. She looked at the papers again. She looked at the map above the door. Bay Ridge felt far away. When the train finally moved, she got off at 86th Street, with the clipboard hugged tight against her chest. Outside, the air had turned damp. Clouds were building over the avenue. Diana ran west, 2 blocks to the city office on Bay Ridge Avenue, a low brick building with a glass door and a blue sign by the entrance. A line of people stood inside near the counter. A clock over the desk said, 2:26. Diana pushed into the line, then saw the woman at the front shake her head at the clerk. "You're missing the last page," the clerk said. Diana's heart dropped so fast it felt like a stone. She rushed forward. "That's mine. I have it. I have all of it." The clerk looked up. He was a middle-aged man with gray at the sides of his hair and a neat tie that looked too perfect for the room. "Name? Diana Brooks. It's for Alvarez Wash and Fold. Fire safety papers." Quote. He held out one hand. Diana laid the yellow clipboard on the counter and spread the pages flat. The page with the coffee stain was on top. The clerk checked each sheet, one by one, then nodded and stamped them with a hard red sound that seemed to shake the desk. "Barely made it," he said. Diana let out a laugh that was almost a gasp. "I know." He stapled the packet, slid it into a folder, and printed a receipt. "Tell Mrs. Alvarez the inspector has the file now. If the shop passes, she's fine for today." Diana took the receipt with shaking fingers. "Passes? If the extinguisher test is good, yes. If not, the inspector will come back next week. But with these papers here, the shop stays open today." Diana thanked him so fast the words blurred together. Then she turned and ran back out into the street. The laundromat was only 3 blocks away, but it felt like 5 miles. She crossed at the light, dodged a man carrying grocery bags, and cut past a bakery where warm bread sat in the window. By the time she reached 3rd Avenue, her shirt had gone damp under the arms, and her hair had fallen out of its clip. The front of Alvarez Wash and Fold was busy as always. A teenager loaded socks into a machine. An older man sat on a folding chair reading the paper. 2 children watched a dryer spin like it was a game. Mrs. Alvarez stood by the counter with her phone in one hand and her keys in the other, looking toward the door every few seconds. When she saw Diana, she put both hands on the counter. "Well?" Diana held up the receipt first, then the yellow clipboard. "Made it." Mrs. Alvarez closed her eyes for one short second, like she had been holding her breath since lunch. Then she opened them and reached for the papers. "You did not lose them?" "Only almost." Luis came out from the back room, wiping his hands on a towel. He saw the clipboard and shook his head. "My aunt was ready to start calling every person she knows in City Hall." "Do not say that," Mrs. Alvarez said. Diana laughed, and this time it was real. "The diner helped me. The waitress. The cook. Everyone." Mrs. Alvarez looked at the yellow clipboard like it was something precious now. She tapped the front page. "This thing caused me 10 years of stress in one afternoon." At that moment, the phone on the counter rang. Luis answered it, listened, and then covered the receiver with his hand. "It's the city office," he said. "They got the file. The inspector is coming at 3, but the office says the papers are good." Mrs. Alvarez shut her eyes again, then smiled so wide her whole face changed. "Open the doors, Luis." He grinned and flipped the sign in the window from closed to open. The little metal sign clicked into place like a lock opening. Diana stood by the door and watched the first customer, after the call, walk in with a laundry bag on each shoulder. A woman with a baby stroller came next. Then another man with a work shirt and a rush in his step. The dryers kept turning. Coins clinked. Soap smell filled the room. Outside, the clouds broke just enough to let a strip of light hit the wet sidewalk. Mrs. Alvarez came over with a cup of hot coffee and handed it to Diana. "You saved my shop," she said quietly. Diana shook her head. Her hands were still tired from the run, and the train, and the fear. But the coffee felt good in them. "I just took the subway." Mrs. Alvarez gave a short laugh. "On the wrong stop." "On the wrong stop," Diana said. They both looked out through the laundromat window. The street was loud and ordinary again, a bus hissing at the curb, a kid on a bike, a man in a suit checking his phone. The red awning over the shop moving a little in the wind. The bright yellow clipboard sat on the counter between the change jar and the stack of clean towels. It looked even brighter now, like it had earned its color. And when the afternoon inspector finally came, he found every paper in place, every alarm tested, and every door clear. Alvarez Wash and Fold stayed open. Diana went home later with the smell of soap on her jacket and the taste of diner coffee still in her mouth. On the stairs of her apartment building, she heard Mrs. Alvarez downstairs laughing with Luis, and for the first time since lunch, the whole block sounded easy to breathe in.